timing is everything. If Tony Olsen misses the right moment, he can't fit in the next pipe, and underneath him some high-ranking visitors are watching. The boss himself. Terry Barr and his new assistant Aaron are on a U.S. tour through the small oil empire of the Australian company Samson Oil. And somebody else has joined them. Me. Here in Wyoming, oil can be found at about 3.5 kilometers below ground. But Terry wants me to go up, 50 meters to be exact, to the top of the oil rig. I start climbing with my camera and, thankfully, a safety rope.
How do I get back down?
I'm hanging right above the Niobrara Shale. Experts aren't quite sure yet if the formation has enough oil to kickstart a big boom here in Wyoming. But roughnecks like Tony are already booked for months.
Lately, it's been good. It's been nice.
When did it pick up and how much do you work?
We work 12.5-hour days, 14 days straight. Then I take 14 days off, go home to the family.
Right next to the rig, there's a little high-tech laboratory. It's here that Aaron gets a crash course in drilling and geology.
And then he'll also examine the rock under this ultraviolet light here.
Of course, flow rates are also a topic. With current crude oil prices, even very deep drilling and high investments can pay off, just like here on this rig.
And also it will produce oil for probably 20 years, but the first 12 months are the really important ones when you get the investment that we're putting into this wellbore, which is about $3.5 million. You want to see that back in the first 12 months, and then the rest of the well is profitable.
The oil in the West is supposed to make the U.S. independent from oil in the Middle East. Now the United States is the fastest growing oil producer in the world. For Terry, that's excellent news. The man has a passion for oil.
It's you against Mother Nature, and I think that's what keeps people like me in the oil business. It's a hell of a lot of fun when you look at it from that perspective. And I've got a geology degree, and I've been in the business over 35 years, and I've loved every minute of it.
That's honest. But what does Mother Nature have to say about it? More oil means more emissions, means faster global warming. That's my thinking as a European, but here in the Wild West, I feel kind of lonely with it. Early the next morning, the tour goes on at the airport in Denver. We're heading north, straight to the heart of the oil boom. Terry wants to visit the so-called Bakken Formation. Taking me along is unusual. Normally, oil companies in the U.S. are extremely suspicious of journalists. My 20 requests yielded exactly one positive response: Terry's.
We're not doing anything bad or wrong, so there's no reason why that you want to be secretive about it. And so my view is that if we're doing good stuff, which we are, then tell the world about it, because it's a great story.
The Bakken Formation unfolds over 520,000 square kilometers in North America's west. Some experts estimate that the recoverable oil supply is larger than 20 billions of barrels, roughly triple the annual oil consumption in the United States. So hundreds of billions of dollars are at play. Terry tries to get his share. That's why he's come to the Fort Peck Indian Reservation in Montana today. It's a pristine area, almost as big as Belgium. It's the day of the council meeting. The Native Americans in Samson Oil are business partners.
I guess we're doing a little filming for a German network.
Terry's here to report on the drilling progress on the reservation grounds. And I can't wait to hear the concerns of the people living here. After all, Samson Oil is using a procedure that's highly controversial in Europe: fracking. Terry's chart shows how it works. The drill goes down first, but then takes a turn and drills horizontally into the oil shale. The actual fracking process comes next, pumping huge amounts of water and sand, but also chemicals into the hole under high pressure. That's what forces the oil out of the stone. Environmentalists warn fracking can contaminate drinking water. The industry says the drilling takes place much deeper than the groundwater, and the drilling holes are protected by steel and cement. In Germany, there would be many questions about how this would affect the environment now. I want to know from Horace what his biggest concern is.
Some people say that the environment's the concern, but they can do it cleanly and safely. So that's really not a concern because there's safety measures built in, so that's not a concern. My biggest concern is hope we find oil.
So the concern is that there might not be enough oil on the reservation.
This is a real oil field.
Terry's on a tight schedule. We're driving to one of 2 Samson oil wells on the reservation. The farmer who's leasing the land wants to know when the oil production will start in earnest. That's when the money starts flowing too. Concerns about fracking? Negative. I ask myself why nobody's considering the procedure in Western Europe, although there are huge oil supplies waiting in places like France. To Terry, it's simply foolish.
And it's an emotional argument. It's not a scientific argument that's being had. If you do the engineering and the science properly, there is absolutely no danger to the environment from fracking a well. And I fervently believe that.
In the northwestern U.S., almost everybody thinks like that. On my last flight with Terry, I see many red squares on the ground. Oil wells everywhere. We're getting close to Williston in North Dakota, the symbol of the oil boom.
2 pieces of property and not have any oil.
From here, I set off alone, accompanied by an endless parade of trucks. A couple of years ago, this was nothing but a small town without a future. Now, there's full employment, not enough streets, and not enough hotels. That's why these surrogate hotels made of construction trailers mushroom around Williston. Their name, man camps. And this is my room, 7 square meters, but everything's there. I'll stay here only 3 nights, but most roughnecks stay for months. Andrew, Darcy, and Chris just came in after a 12-hour drive from nearby Canada. It's all-inclusive at the man camp. That's especially important when it comes to food. The canteen's open 24 hours a day.
So I gotta try and find where everything is in town, so I might drive around for a little bit.
The 3 have seen their share of shabby lodging. This one's not bad, says Chris.
No, this is a nice camp. I've seen better, but this is nice because some of them are pretty bad. It depends where you go, right? Like, you get real far back in the bush some places, you get an older camp and no one's bothered to take a newer one in, and it can be pretty bad, but...
What Chris means with his unfinished sentence is, the money's right, and that's what counts. That's why he doesn't mind sleeping in a room not much longer than himself. I ask him how much he made last year, and the answer almost knocks me off my feet. 150,000 euros.
I mean, doctors make more than I do, not by much though. Heart specialists. But like being an uneducated guy, you know, no secondary school and none of that stuff, just you know, school of hard knocks, you know, going to work. That's the only real education I got, so.
Roughnecks in construction trailers make a small fortune. The U.S. is making itself independent of Arabian oil, and all my European objections seem worthless. But I still haven't come to terms with the drinking water issue. On my own, I make the trek back west to Montana. I want to visit the Indian reservation once more. Maybe somebody will voice some concern about the water here when the whole oil industry party isn't with me. A hose, a water tank, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I prefer asking, and it's worth it. As it turns out, there are problems. Warren Means is a member of the Sioux tribe and a horse breeder. He gets water from his son-in-law's well a couple of times a week. The water from his own well is contaminated.
You know, I could take and fill a 250-gallon tank, a stock water tank over there with water out of my well and let it set overnight, and in the morning they will be an inch to an inch and a half of brown foamy substance on the top of it. Oh, you should have got that. You got it?
Indeed, his own water looks brownish in the beginning, but it gets clearer. It could just be rust, right?
Well, but rust is normal, right?
Well, some of it, but there's some other stuff in there too that is really causing a problem.
When his horses drank the water, they got kidney problems. The reason lies back in the past about 50 years ago. Warren points it out. A few kilometers in this direction, oil was produced in 1960. The resulting toxic brine found its way into the groundwater, 150 million liters of it. Since then, it's slowly spreading. Today's oil production has many more safety measures than back then. Still, Warren has his thoughts on the oil boom.
And of course the first one is the health of the people in terms of what they're using in the wells. The other one is, of course, the economic situation here, which deserves a lot of growth and will bring a prosperity to the people, hopefully.
He also has to be hopeful that the industry is right and widespread contamination is a thing of the past. On my way back to Williston, I realized that my European vision for the future of energy counts for nothing around here. The much trumpeted end of oil is not in sight. But it will come one day, that's for sure. So why not invest in renewable energy right away and not in more oil production? That might be a very European question once again.